Today I'd like to explore the connection between the heart revolution and the current AI super hype. And you've probably already read it. It's everywhere in every headline, the whole AI thing, and how AI is already revolutionizing every aspect of our lives and how it will do that in the future. This goes so far that some experts even say that the future of humanity, literally the next step in our evolution, would be to merge or augment our brain and thus, in that worldview, our consciousness with AI. The heart revolution, one of the things we're hinting at is that we believe, and according to the science and the puzzle pieces we put together in our documentary, that the next step in human evolution will happen, and probably only happen, when we start to, let me put it poetically, have a flowering heart. The topic of trauma gets more and more popular in mainstream now, which is so important because there's so much trauma in the world. And if you put it poetically, again, trauma, creates a constriction of the heart, a withering, a deadening, a dying, a hardening of the heart, and like with a plant that is frozen because of stress and trauma. As it can heal and relax, and life force can move through it in a organic, natural way again, then I think every human is like a different flower or plant or tree, and we are going to bloom, sprout and then bloom, and show our flowers to the world. And this has to do with the state that your heart is in and the state of the heart of humanity. But this is, the sum of all the individual hearts. So one of the biggest problems I see with AI is not that it's gonna take all our jobs, or start a war on itself, or start the robot revolution and imprison all humans, the whole Matrix movie scenario. The biggest problem I see is that it might create, or already creates, an additional layer that is between our culture realizing how important it is to turn your attention inwards to find answers versus outwards. This is an archetypal movement of your attention that has been there for as long as there's humans. So to find an answer, so you have something coming up in your soul, consciousness, and there is a tension. You need to have something. In this case, it's an answer to a question that you have. So where do you go to find the answer? So you can move your attention outwards, and with outwards I mean, like, we all have a sense of I call this the I space, or the I awareness. It's like whatever you identify with. Maybe your body, maybe more than your body, certainly your thoughts are your thoughts somehow other thoughts, but there's some I say I am thinking, I think this, I feel this, your feelings, so your body, your thoughts and your emotions. You say I, and there's a certain aspect, I call it a space, it's your I, and you can go within. That's some aspect of the whole meditation thing, is that you instead of going outside with your awareness and your attention awareness, you're going inside. And just as we have in classic Western education, as we also have it in many religions that have representatives, there is always, and in science, there is this instruction: if you are looking for an answer or you want to find an answer, you either read a book, you go to school, you listen to a teacher, you listen to the experts, you read another book, you read 1,000 more books, you watch another film, you go to another teacher, your guru, your professor, whatever. This is always an outside movement. And it's important here, it's not good or bad, it's just to help you get a clear understanding of the two types of movement you can do to move towards finding an answer. A friend of mine once said, question is like quest I on, question, the quest I'm on. You're on a quest to find a question. So, and this is why I find this important and interesting. The AI is now said to have access to all the knowledge of humanity, which is in many ways very misleading, because it doesn't have all the books that have been ever written, and especially it doesn't have access to all the experiences human had that were never written down. So in a way, it's an extremely biased answer that you get from an AI, because an AI doesn't generate an answer. It cannot think, no matter what they, AI marketers will tell you. AI cannot think. AI takes data sets, and as you know, might have heard of large language models or this. They need to have insane amounts of data, and then they do something with the data, and then they put out another piece of data. AI doesn't understand anything. It cannot understand anything. You easily notice that when you use Grammarly. I do this since years, and you notice it doesn't get better, I think. And I have the feeling that the suggestions might get worse. And they make suggestions where you clearly notice it doesn't understand the sentence at all, not even on the basic level. A first grader would understand the sentence better than the Grammarly AI. I probably have to put the Grammarly out. Anyways, so back to the outside versus inside. So now the whole thing is like, you now you have access to every answer in the universe by consulting an AI. So AI is now replacing the teacher and the professor and the gurus and religious leaders or priests, whatever the different teachers in different religions are. So just go to the AI. What this does is that it focuses your attention on the outside. Again, not a bad thing per se, just to make it clear. So the other way to find an answer is to go inside. I don't want to call this meditation because it's not meditation, it's finding an answer or longing for an answer. The question here is an interesting question, is where does a question arise inside of within your consciousness? Consciousness is a hot topic. Yeah? I like the word soul. Within yourself, there comes a question, and the question comes, if you notice it comes with a tension or a longing. So there's something unresolved. You need to resolve something, and that appears in the consciousness as a question. And then the mind thinks if it can answer the question, this longing and this tension is going to be resolved. And the more you pay attention, very sophisticated, to this dynamic of tension, longing, questions, answers, and movements within your soul, you're going to notice a lot of interesting things. So the heart revolution comes in here is because this flowering, the symbol that we have, the flowering heart, the heart that is flowering, this represents a state like enlightenment, where you have, the halo on the saints and all the religious iconography. The enheartened heart, the flowering heart, is a state where you go inside, slide inside, fall inside, slip inside, whatever it is, how it feels for you. You go inside. And in my experience, it's a different way. It's a different way of finding answers. And it's not so much the masculine, young way. I'm gonna walk up the hill and then I'm gonna see what's up on the hill. It's more like going into a river, and then the different currents in the river take you somewhere, and you find something, you notice something, and then things just appear and they're there. So if you go inside, you don't find answers by the external. For me, this is the masculine way, where you find elements, you put them together, you manipulate them, you calculate them, and then this is the deductive thinking and reasoning, and then you come up with an answer based on what you found outside. The inside is you start to feel, sense, experience things, and then the answer is there. It's knowing. The one thing is knowing, and the other thing on the outside is knowledge. Your accumulated knowledge that you can operate and manipulate on. And the inside is a knowing. And it doesn't have, there's no argument that leads you to that. You just know. And on a side note, that's another aspect of the heart revolution, is that this, if again you put labels on it, I would put the label on the outgoing, attention going outside of you, collecting data, manipulating the data, and so on. I call this the masculine path to knowledge, to finding answers. That's perfectly fine and important. And the inward going is the feminine way. Now, if you look at education, our educational system, and education from where it started in the monasteries thousands of years ago, and especially let's focus on the modern educational system, and now just put down how many hours on a school day children are required to move their attention outside versus inside. I think this is probably one of the biggest overlooked imbalances that we currently have and had for many thousands of years, that prevents a heart blooming, the blooming heart, flowering heart. And that is because we're just trained, like, imagine, well, hopefully you have two legs like I have, and how do you walk through life? Well, you learn to use both legs, right? So you go on one side, then you go to life. Now, just try to do the same thing on one leg. Just hold your one leg and then try to get to your grocery store or in your other room or whatever. It's, I would say, not very elegant and strenuous, annoying, and many other things. It's for sure not making use of the natural design and the architecture that we've been given from life, the universe, God, whatever you want. We have this body, and it has an architecture, has an anatomy, and you can use the form in a certain way. You can also use it in other ways. I think the way we're using our mind and our heart currently is like hopping on one leg. And I think we can do much better if we learn to use both legs, if we learn to go outside to find answers and go inside to find answers. And then the most important step is to discover the relationship between the answers you find inside and what happens outside. And this is an aspect of cultivating your heart perception or your heart. And I think the problem with AI is that it's a very, very seductive tool on the outside, which is great and can be used for great things. There's nothing evil or bad about the AI as itself, just as a knife or a stone is not a bad thing. If someone has incredibly emotional turmoil and immaturity and cannot express themselves others than taking a stone and hitting it on the head of another one, the stone becomes a very destructive device. So my question is just, will the majority of humanity start to pay more and more and more attention on the outside, on the AI? Or will the majority of humanity realize how important it is to go inside and learn, literally train and learn how to find answers on your inside? Also doesn't mean that teachers are no longer relevant and important. That's completely wrong, or the opposite. The best teachers are the ones who help you find your answers a little bit with less efforts than it might take, or probably will take you if you all try to do it on your own. And it has to be very, very carefully done. If they give you the answer, then that thing, give a person a fish and they have something to eat, and train them how to fish, and then they have to eat. They have something to eat every day. The same is with the answers and finding answers. If you give someone the answer, it's not the answer that they found. It's something that you gave them. And the answers that you find on your inside, they have a very different quality than outside. And on the inside, sure, if you learn a lot of, if you go into education and you have a lot of worldviews and concepts and ideas in your head, that's not what I mean with going inside. That's going into your head and then again manipulating data that you achieved from the outside. Going into your heart is a different space. It doesn't operate on previously collected data, ideas, concepts, information. It comes from somewhere else. It doesn't mean that it's not important to have these ideas and concepts. That's also important to understand that, at least how I experience this, when you have this insight from the heart or knowing, it's in an instant you know something that when you then try to put it in words or drawings or music, which is my favorite, to use visual, sound and visuals instead of only words, then you'll notice that in an instant you might receive a knowing, an information, an insight that takes you hours or weeks or years or a lifetime to unpack. It's like a highly condensed zip file. And yeah, this is another discussion about information density and so on. But yeah, so that's my contemplation on one aspect of AI that might, have a lot of problems in the next decades for humanity wanting to embody their full potential. Just had an afterthought. So when we're talking about now what's the purpose of the heart, or the function or the capacity of the heart, and I talked about the going inside and have a knowing, this insight. You go inside to have an insight. The AIs, they need data input that they get from the internet and everything that people do and somehow express in some way or form. So it's very limited, and now you could also put in data streams, whatever data streams. Sure, you can connect all the cameras, then collect all the data from the camera sensors. You can put in scientific data and so on. But it's always limited to what people generate, what humans generate and do and create. It always needs that as an input. If that's correct, what ancient texts like the Upanishads say about the heart, and they say that the whole universe you see outside, everything you see outside, beautifully, poetically say, like from the lightning and the thunder, the storm and the cloud and the sun and the moon, everything we see outside. And I would say it's not limited to the sun and the moon, our solar system, but the Milky Way and everything we see outside, even with our beautiful instruments like the Hubble or whatever, devices that we shoot out and see galaxies and the vastness of the cosmic space, which I love. It's beautiful, these images. All of this, what we experience is outside. These ancient sages, thousands of years ago, that were masters in going inside into the heart, they found that what they found outside inside their heart. So if that's not just crazy talk from some pot-smoking, ancient gurus, hippies, meditation freaks, and there's something to it, then that would mean that our heart is the interface between us and, I don't know how to say that, the entire universe, every aspect and every fiber and every vibration and every atom and every movement and every form existing in the outside is somehow connected, linked, related to something in our heart. So, and that's also what they say in the Upanishads, in these ancient texts from India. If you learn to go inside and inside of your heart, you can investigate and explore and find answers to everything that seems to be outside. So in that regards, I would say that the heart is a much cooler technology, beyond bonkers technology, an interface than AI could ever be. That's just me, personally. I have to stick with the art. So, another thought, yeah. So I would suggest, let's figure out how to do this with going into our heart, and maybe we could put this in some form that people can, especially kids can learn that just as they learn math and languages. Maybe we can find a way to teach kids how to do that. Also, again, in our documentary, see this one little girl, 8-year-old girl, who learns to read. She's a normal girl with normal eyes, but she's blindfolded, and within 4 weeks, she learns how she can start to see and perceive things, although she's blindfolded. And she learns this in 4 weeks, no meditation or anything involved. So the way we move our attention and where we move it and how we move it is significant in how we see the world and what we experience of the world. And again, my plaidoyer would be, the heart is the much cooler technology if we figure out how to use it. Take a person who has lived their whole life in the jungle in the Amazon and put them in front of computers. Say, now you have access to every answer in the universe. You can easily get it. Just type it in. Well, they have to know a lot of things. First, how to switch on the computer, how to use the keyboard, how to use the mouse to open the app, to go into the AI software, where to click to put the prompt in, and then they have the answer. So you still have to learn to do certain things to use technology like AI. And it's the same with the heart. No one has taught us how to use the heart, so we have to figure it out. And if we learn how to use it, maybe we'll discover and come up to the same realizations than what the ancient sages said, that every aspect of the outside is inside. And just on a side note, the most interesting, they said there's only one thing you cannot ever fully investigate and explore, and that's yourself, the heart of yourself, the very center and heart of yourself. If that's not a mind boggler, I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I hope you have a beautiful life.